Welcome everyone to the next video series on AZ104, where we are going to talk about prerequisites and the basics of cloud computing. So before we go on a deep dive on AZ104, it is very important for us to understand the basic concepts like what is cloud and what is cloud computing. So we have different types of offering on cloud computing and the different deployments of cloud computing which we are going to discuss in this video. So, when we talk about cloud, basically we are storing our data on a remote server. If we talk about physical storage devices, like we have our hard disk, we have our pen drive, we have our SD cards, which are physical forms of storage. But when we compare it to the remote storage options like Google Drive or Google Photos or OneDrive, so the whenever we store our data on these platforms, it is stored on a remote server or a remote data center, and we can easily access that data from the internet if we have an connection. So basically, instead of storing the data physically with us, we are storing it on a remote location. So what is cloud computing then? So not only just the availability of the storage, but the availability of compute, memory, network, storage, or any other offerings like IoT services, AI services over the internet. Okay. On a pay as you go model, how much you consume, you pay for that much. And in an on demand basis, whenever you require, you get the access to that, right? So in this is what the definition of cloud it is ubiquitous in nature, it is present everywhere, you can access the cloud resources anytime you want. The only thing is that you need to have an internet connection. So before we go into a deep dive, let us understand what does Azure documentation have to say around cloud computing. So here you can see this is a documentation on cloud computing by Microsoft Azure, which says what is cloud? Cloud is an extensive network of remote servers all across the world. We know that be it Google, be it IBM, be it Azure or AWS, it has its data center all across the globe. We will have a deep dive onto the regions and availability zone offering as we proceed ahead in this course. So these servers store and manage data, run application and deliver contents like streaming videos, web mails and office productivity software over the internet. So you can store the files in the cloud and be free whenever you want. You can access it from either your remote systems or your remote devices. So here you can see cloud computing is the delivery of computing resources such as storage, database over the internet on a pay as you go model. How much you consume, you pay for that much. It is the same in Google Drive also. They give you up to a free limit of 15 GB. Beyond that, if you want to go ahead with the storage, they charge you for that much, right? Similarly, if you use OneDrive or Microsoft 365, so based on your consumption, you pay for different access that you want over the cloud. Now, when we talk about cloud computing, these are some key takeaways that how you benefit on cost, performance, security. Before we discuss, let's first understand the different cloud computing models that we have. Okay, when we talk about cloud computing, we have the private cloud, we have public cloud, and we have hybrid cloud. First, let's talk about private cloud or on premises. Why we call this as on prem? Because if you have your own data center and you do virtualization in your own data center, that's a private cloud deployment. So, for example, you thought you opened a new company today and you thought that I will set up my own data center. So, it's in a location X. Okay. So, whenever I want to set up my own data center, so for that purpose, I will be or going to the market and buying the servers, racking it, stacking it up, putting the operating system, the compute, the memory, the network, the storage into place, setting up the operating system, the virtual machine, the runtime environment, and setting up the application over it, right? So all of these tasks which are there, these tasks are performed by whom? You are doing those tasks. So entirely all the administrative effort which are there is ensured that end to end is managed by you. When we talk about public cloud, on the other hand, so in the public cloud deployments, already we know that it has data centers all across the globe. So the compute, the memory, the network, the storage, and basically the underlying infrastructure is already present and managed by our cloud provider like AWS, Azure, or Google, or other multi cloud offerings you can take into consideration. The rest of the task, like setting up our operating system, setting up our virtual machine, the runtime environment, the application, and the management of data, is our responsibility. This is your responsibility, correct? So if we bifurcate it with the right color, from here to up, all is your responsibility, and already the underlying infrastructure is there, which is managed by our cloud provider. On the other hand, if we talk about hybrid clouds, so in hybrid cloud we already have an on premises deployment or your own data center, and we want to extend or enhance our capabilities by going ahead and taking the features of cloud. So when we talk about public cloud, what are the capability of feature that we are getting it here? We don't have to go to the market and buy the servers, rack it, stack it up, put the underlying infrastructure into place. All these are already done for us by our cloud provider, which is in our case Azure. The rest of the things like hosting our environments, or deploying our applications, or managing our applications are to be handled by us. So in that case, public cloud gives you the flexibility of time plus cost. Time, why? Because here you can spin up a server within a minute, whereas to spin up a server in the private or on premises environment, you need few days, because you need to purchase, go to the market, buy the servers, purchase the licenses, put everything into picture, set up the networking, and do end to end all the activities just to spin up a virtual machine or let your application running. Whereas these facilities are easily set up and already present with the help of underlying infrastructure. With one click, you can easily spin up your resources on cloud. And when we talk about cost uh, benefit, you are moving from capital expenditure to operational cost. Why? Because here you have a physical infrastructure, right? Whereas in public cloud, which is our Azure or AWS, we are reducing the cost and we are reducing the time. Plus, with the help of public cloud, we get the flexibility, or you can call this as scalability, right? Or you can call this as elasticity. So what is flexibility, scalability, or elasticity in this context? That, for example, today I want to spin up my data center in X location, but tomorrow I want to extend my reach and I want to spin up another data center in Y location. So I need to put forward the same effort, whereas just by selecting a particular region and checking onto different features, we can spin up the service in different regions wherever we want, according to our customer availability. So that is the benefit that we have with public cloud again. So you can also increase the number of servers running at the same time. Whereas to increase or decrease the number of servers, it is a challenge in the on premises environment, because a specific set desired compute is what you have bought from the market. If you want to increase it, you have to go to the market again and purchase those infrastructure or compute resources to achieve the same level of scalability, or the same level of infra that you require. We are talking about the private cloud deployments. So we are doing everything from scratch. So a lot of administrative effort are there, put in, lot of time effort is there, lot of cost effort is there, because capital expenditure is very high. You pay upfront for buying the infrastructure, the servers, and licenses and everything, right? And there is less scalability. That means you cannot easily scale up or scale down. You have less of global reach, right? Global reach is less. Whereas when you compare it with the public cloud deployments like In our case, Azure has a global footprint all across the world. There are regions where you can select the region and spin up your server or DB or your compute, right, or your storage, anything, just with few clicks and within a few minutes. And here the time, as you can see, is comparatively low, whereas the cost is also low because you just need to pay the operational cost, not the capital expenditure for spinning up the servers, right? And scalability is high. There are inbuilt feature of scalability, scale up and scale down, which you can avail along with services of compute like app services or VMs, etc. Similarly, here global reach is there with the global footprints all across the globe, right? So, whenever we talk about cloud, we refer it to the public cloud deployment that we have, where we get extensive features by our cloud provider. And we have already discussed hybrid cloud, hybrid modality. You already have a on-prem deployment, but you want to extend and take the advantage of the features which are there present from the public cloud deployment. So to sum it up, now we are into the public cloud, right? So we are working with Azure. Now, when we talk about Azure, there are different types of deployment models that we have in Azure. Basically, three models that we discuss. One is infrastructure as a service, one is platform as a service, and one is software as a service. What does it mean? We have this as infra, this as platform, and this as software. So when we talk about infra as a service, so we have this underlying infrastructure, the compute, the memory, the network, and the storage already set up in all the cases, right? In all the cases. Whereas when we work with infrastructure as a service, we have to spin up our operating system, the virtual machine type that we want to spin up, the runtime environment we will define, the application that we will be managing, and the data over it. So all this becomes your responsibility, right? Example, in the case of Azure, we have virtual machines, okay, where you select your operating system, you manage the networking, you select additional features, and then finally you spin up your virtual machine. Whereas in the case of platform as a service, this is basically for developers. So we have multiple developers who only know about application and the code to be written, right? So they don't know anything about the infrastructure management. So Azure tells you that don't worry about the infrastructure, the operating system and the virtual machine required to run your application or the code. You can define, and the rest of the things are managed by you, right? So we can select the runtime environment that we want, the application deployment, and the data. So this is what you will manage, right, as a developer. So you will bring your application or the code and just deploy it. Whatever underlying infrastructure is required to run that particular application or code, which it will be provided by Azure to you. Right? This will be managed by Azure. The rest of these things will be managed by you. The one example of this is app services in the case of Azure, right? Multiple PaaS services are there. Whereas in software as a service, Azure tells you that you know what, I have an end application which you can manage easily. So it gives you the operating system, the virtual machine, the runtime environment, the application. This is all managed and given to you by Azure. What you have to do is just manage the data over it and partial access. So, this is what you manage. One good example of this is Office 365 or Microsoft 365 applications which are there. So, you don't worry on which virtual machine that application is running or what code do I need to set up. You just manage the end application. That is why it is known as software as a service. The end software is what you manage. So these are the three deployments that we have, that infrastructure as a service, the platform as a service, and Software as a service. So whenever we go on to Azure portal, we can classify based on the different category of the service offering that we have. This is my Azure portal where you can see that I have different services being offered, right? So I will go to the all service section, and in the all service section you can see the categories of the services. So we have compute. In the compute, we have infrastructure as a service deployments. We have platform as a service. So let us understand what does Azure document has to say about cloud computing. So what is cloud computing? It is the delivery of computing resources as we discussed, availability of servers, storage, database, networking over the internet. Whenever you require, you get the access, which helps you for faster innovation and flexible resources. Also, when we talk about types of cloud computing, right, there are different types of cloud computing. So we have infrastructure as a service, PaaS. There is also serverless, which we'll be discussing as we discuss the service of serverless deployments. It doesn't mean that there are no servers. There are servers, but you don't manage those servers. And SaaS deployments. So what are the benefits of cloud computing? You get benefit on cost, you can easily spin up, which gives you the benefit of speed. You have global reach with cloud, you have more productivity with cloud, right? The racking and stacking is what you don't have to manage, right? The performance is increased as you get a worldwide network of infrastructure and data centers to perform. You get more reliability because you can create different disaster recovery and backup options. You have proper security in place. You can in cloud we generally say security by layers, so it is not just one thing that you do for security, it is multiple uh, activities or multiple types of features that you can actually avail in cloud to enhance the security feature. So we have different deployment models like public cloud we have seen, right? Private cloud and hybrid cloud, and the different types of cloud offering. Infrastructure as a service, example as VM, storage, networks, operating system, etc. Platform as a service, example is app services, and software as a service, end application is delivered to you, which you can access from different environments. And serverless, obviously, it is for application building where you don't manage the infrastructure on your own, the servers on your own. So you can easily go through this document from Microsoft, which tells the basic of what is cloud computing. So since many people are now working with AWS and Azure environment, there are a bit of correlation between Azure and AWS, and for multiple services, you can see that the naming convention has changed, but the features are quite similar. So here you can see that. You can save by running on Windows Server and SQL servers on Azure if you compare it with AWS, right? And get more value. See, more than 95% of the Fortune 500 companies use Azure because of its availability across 60 regions worldwide. So a lot of regions deployment are there. So this was an basic idea and understanding on cloud and cloud computing. So I will see you in the next video where we get started with the Entra concepts. So stay tuned and please do like, share, and subscribe so that the efforts are in line and we get a lot of encouragement from your comments, your subscriptions, right? So please do like, share, and subscribe and keep supporting. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video.